This is the last gift I'll ever give you. My husband handed me divorce papers. I've decided to marry someone else, so thanks for being a cash machine all this time. The man I had spent so many years with turned out to be terrible. This is the story of how I got my revenge. My name is Jessica, I'm turning 50 this year, and tomorrow is a special day. I'll finally be free of debt after many years of struggling. My husband, Lance, and I worked hard together. We got married 20 years ago. I was 30, and he was 35. Lance inherited a liquor store from his parents after they passed away. I worked as an office worker. We met through a friend and started dating with marriage in mind. I had one worry: what if he wanted me to work at the store with him? At the time, I was a financial consultant, giving advice on insurance and investments to individuals and companies. I had a good-paying job and loved it. I was even studying for a certification to go further in my career when he proposed. He told me, "I know you're working hard for that certification. I want to support you however I can. The store has enough staff, so I can manage it myself. You should keep chasing your dreams." His words made me want to marry him. He was kind and always supported me. I truly wanted to build a life with someone like that. As we had agreed, he focused on his business, and I focused on my career. We thought everything was going well in our marriage. About a year later, while cleaning at home on my day off, I found a pile of papers under the bed. We had only moved in less than 6 months ago. I was curious and picked up a crumpled paper. It said in big letters, "Reminder of payment." The total debt was $200,000. I was shocked. Was this a mistake? Why was there so much debt? I confronted him as soon as he got home. "What is this debt? What's going on?" He said, "It's not what you think. This debt is from my parents. When I took over the store, their debt came with it. It's secured by the land and the house we live in, so I didn't want to give up the inheritance." I understood it wasn't his personal debt, but it still needed to be dealt with. "But this is a payment reminder. Are you paying it off each month?" "I am, but sales go up and down. Sometimes I can't pay everything when business is slow. I have to pay my staff first, so I've asked the bank to wait. That's why we got this letter." At first, his explanation seemed reasonable, but it wasn't a good idea to keep delaying payments. The letter even said final notice. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry. Don't stress. Business is okay, and we haven't lost our house yet." But I felt uneasy. Then he said something surprising. "If you're so worried, why don't you help me pay it off? You make a good salary, right?" I didn't like where he was going with this. It wasn't my store. A marriage means supporting each other, but this felt different. "Would you be okay if my store went out of business? It would affect a lot of people." He was right. His store was important to the community, especially since there weren't many shops around. They sold fresh food and even delivered to homes. I had visited the store a few times, and it was always busy. Some customers had even said they were grateful for it. "Please, honey, I'm working hard to keep the store going. Help me pay off the debt." I admired his dedication. I didn't want to see his store close, so I agreed. "Okay, I'll pay what I can from my salary each month. You focus on managing the store." I was happy he relied on me, but this was just the beginning of a change in him. 3 years later, he often came home late. "Where were you?" I asked. "Out drinking with customers again?" "Yeah, just a few drinks. Did you make the payment this month?" He started talking to me like he was giving orders. At first, I didn't think much of it, but it started bothering me after a while. He acted like it was normal for me to pay off his debt. By the way, Matt has a third kid now. I envy him. Matt was Lance's friend from high school. He also had his own business. Just like Lance, his wife worked at the store with him. "I've been meaning to talk to you about that," I said, holding in what I had been thinking for a while. "Don't you think it's time for us to start a family?" His reaction was cold. "A baby? My business is just starting to grow, and we're still in debt. How can we be so careless?" That was his answer. I tried to hold back my frustration. "Matt has 3 kids now, right? We can manage 1, 2. His parents are still doing well, and his wife works at the store with him. They're different from us." I couldn't argue with that. I always thought I'd have children after getting married, but my dream was crushed easily. "So, we can have a baby after I pay off your debts," he said. "Well, I guess that's how it will be. If you make a lot of money and pay off the debts quickly, maybe I'll think about it." His rude smile made me feel sick, but I was so focused on paying off the debt that I didn't think about how wrong it was, how foolish I was. Even though it was an unfair demand, I still wanted to have a family, so I didn't question it. I just kept working hard for Lance. I took extra qualifications, passed exams, and worked for a raise. I started earning much more than most women my age. I even paid off more of the debt early, but it still wasn't disappearing quickly. Before I knew it, I was 40. I had to give up on having children. I told myself I still had my husband, and that was enough. He relied on me, and I was willing to do anything for him. As long as I believed that, I felt happy. But as time went on, Lance started coming home later and later. Some days, he didn't come home until the morning. I would be working at the store, and it would be sunrise before I realized it. One day, I had to go out with a customer, and by the time I got back, it was already morning. When I saw him working so hard to keep the store going, I felt like I had to do my best as his wife too. We were in this together, working for a better future. The months and years passed, and finally, the day came. I was about to make the last payment the next day. For all these years, I had given up on things like vacations or nice dinners to pay off the debt, but now, it was finally over. I could spend my money the way I wanted. I realized that since I got married, I'd focused too much on money. We had never taken a real vacation or gone to a fancy restaurant. Now, in my 50s, I hoped I could finally enjoy those things. The day the last payment was due, I took a day off. I cooked a special dinner, more luxurious than usual, opened a bottle of wine, and even baked Lance's favorite chocolate cake. I wanted to celebrate finally being debt-free together. When he came home, I laid everything out on the table and said, "Finally, it feels like it's been a long time, but these 20 years have gone by so fast, don't you think, honey?" He was trembling and kept his head down. I thought he might be crying out of happiness. But then, to my shock, he started laughing in a way I had never heard before. "What the hell is going on? Are you okay?" I asked. And then, the man who I had been married to for so long said the most outrageous thing. "You're dismissed now. I'm thankful for the last 20 years. Thanks to you paying off all my debt, I'm free now. Great job. I don't need you anymore." "What are you talking about?" I didn't understand what he meant. Then, he pulled something out of his bag. "This is my last present to you," he said, handing me a divorce petition. It hit me like a punch in the stomach. He proudly continued, "I've decided to marry someone else, so you're no longer useful to me. Thanks for being my cash machine." "You're getting remarried? Have you been cheating on me this whole time?" I asked, thinking back to how he always came home late, saying he was working or socializing, while I worked hard to pay off his debt, but his expression stayed smug. "I'll never read that. Unfaithful? I already have someone else in mind. I want a divorce and to marry her. That's why I've been waiting for you to pay off my debt." Tears started to form in my eyes, and I felt even more heartbroken looking at the meal I had prepared. "Get out of here," he said, handing me the divorce papers. My blood began to boil faster than my sadness or frustration could take over. "Okay, but you won't regret it," I said through clenched teeth. "No, I won't. Why would I regret divorcing an old hag like you?" "An old hag?" I was stunned. If anyone was the old fool here, it was him. Did he think he was still young? His ridiculous words helped me snap out of my shock. I took the divorce papers. "I'm taking these with me for now, and I'll be in touch." I packed my things and left the house. How could my 20 years of marriage end so easily, alone? I finally cried out of emptiness and frustration. Then I called my attorney to start the divorce process and had him send the papers to Lance. I also asked for information on his new bride-to-be. Not long after, I got a call from him. "Hey Jessica, what the hell is this document?" He sounded furious. I could picture his face turning red even over the phone, but I stayed calm. "That's a divorce agreement. What about it?" "I know what it is, but why am I being asked to pay you back?" He sounded shocked and kept yelling, "This is crazy, this isn't right." He was talking about the part where he had to repay the money I paid off for him. You did it out of your kindness, didn't you? Why are you bringing it up now?" he complained. "What do you mean? I did it as your wife, but if we're divorcing, that's a different story." It finally clicked for him. As soon as he asked for a divorce, I knew I'd have him pay back what he owed. My job as a financial consultant had given me connections, and I knew just what to do. I contacted experienced lawyers right away. The total amount, including the interest I paid for him, was just over $300,000. I was determined to get it back. He must have realized how serious I was when he saw the lawyer's name on the papers. He probably thought he could get rid of his wife without paying anything. How ridiculous. "You know I don't have that much money," he said. "Well, then why don't you sell the store?" I asked. "If I sell the store, I'll have nothing left." "You're only 55, you could still get a job. Come on, stop whining." The conversation made no sense. I almost wanted to hang up, but there was one last thing I needed to ask. "By the way, how's your new bride-to-be?" "None of your business," he snapped. I couldn't help but laugh at his rude tone. "Sounds like you've got a lot going on. Good luck." Then I hung up the phone. "Wait a minute, I've decided not to marry her. We can start over." For some reason, Lance begged me to reconsider. I yelled my final words at him and hung up the phone. "Start over? Don't kill yourself. I don't want you." I had been married to this man for 20 years. I wondered if I looked more foolish than him in the eyes of others. I had truly respected him until the divorce came up. I had watched him work hard for the store and for his customers, and I wanted to support him. But 20 years later, I realized he was just a fool. The idea of remarriage he mentioned was all part of his selfishness. It started when he began flirting with a university student working part-time. "You're so cute, Melissa. Will you be my wife?" She played along and jokingly responded, "Well, I'd think about it if you let me be a full-time housewife." The truth was, she never took him seriously. Marrying a man almost 40 years her senior was just a joke to her, but Lance thought she was being serious. When he kept pressing her, her parents had to intervene and place a restraining order against him. When I read the investigator's report, I laughed so hard I could barely breathe. When Lance started coming home late, I thought he was just working hard, but he wasn't. He was often out hitting on young women at bars and strip clubs. He made a fool of himself saying, "I'm surprisingly popular with young girls. I'm a salesman, so I have this easy-to-talk-to aura, and they get along with me. I'm told I look younger, don't you think?" The girls cringed at his comments. Without me around, his old wife as he saw it, he had no one to take care of him financially, but his delusions of himself were laughable. No one took him seriously, and he became a bit of a stalker who almost got into trouble with the police. Maybe it would have been easier if he had actually cheated on me, but the sad thing was, he couldn't even find a mistress. The reason he wanted to marry a young girl was that his friend Matt had a grandchild. Matt had told me the story. As soon as he saw my grandchild, he said he wanted to have a child himself. I scolded him for saying such a thing. He had been depending on me to clear his debts, and I was harsh with him, but I had no idea the depths of his foolishness. It was all about his self-image, and I was glad I didn't waste my golden years with him. I finally learned that I mattered more than he ever did. The divorce was finalized. The division of property wasn't clear, and Lance tried to negotiate in his favor, but my attorney was well known, and Lance quickly gave up. I wondered how such a gutless man had managed to run a business for so long. In the end, he sold the store to pay me back. His employees had already abandoned him, so no one was hurt by the sale. Customers who had once supported him were shocked when they learned the reason he was selling the store was to pay his ex-wife. Lance got what he deserved. It became a local story that, though real, felt like a comedy. Even without the sale, the bad publicity would have hurt his business. It was probably a blessing in disguise that he sold the store before he went bankrupt. The money from the sale wasn't enough to cover the full debt. Lance still works part-time jobs to pay me back. Sometimes, I get messages from him. "It was all my fault. Can we get back together?" I laugh now, remembering how Matt was so proud of his grandchild. Lance, after all this time, still tried to get back into my life. Even after I blocked his number, he kept calling from different phones. "If you contact your ex-wife any further, we'll file a restraining order." I had my attorney send him a warning. The call stopped. As usual, he was terrified of the attorney. Now, guess what I do for work? I'm a marriage counselor. At 50, I decided to try something new. A friend of mine opened a matchmaking business, and I joined her. While helping singles find love, I also advise couples on financial matters, insurance, and more. It's been a hit, and our membership grew quickly. Couples who want honest, thorough discussions about their relationships appreciate our unique services. After everything I went through, I don't want others to make the same mistakes I did. My salary is a little lower than before, but I enjoy helping others find happiness. I found mine after leaving my ex-husband. Today, I'm focused on being a bridge to someone else's happiness.